Who's going to coach it? One of Jokic's brothers? Zan Keefe? This late in the season is crazy. 2 weeks from the playoffs. You're the 4th seed right now. A game and a half back from the 3rd seed, and your coach is gone.
I just don't get it. This does not give them the best chance to win a championship. And I wouldn't be shocked if Joker demands trade this summer.
No, we got an opening in L.A.
At the end of the day, there is only one man to blame. Russell Westbrook, you are a snake. You know, if you weren't on this team, I'd still be employed.
Mike Malone spent 10 seasons barking on Denver's sideline, helping Nikola Jokic into an MVP, and handing the city its first ring. Now the front office has yanked the clipboard out of his hands. Fans are blinking in disbelief. Players are side-eyeing management, and every studio host is arguing whether this is genius timing or front office self-sabotage. The Nuggets just turned what was once a potential dynasty into a live wire experiment, and the whole league is watching for sparks. One moment he's pacing the sideline screaming. Next he's packing up with the playoffs around. This wasn't a rebuilding year. This wasn't a team in freefall. This was the Denver Nuggets, top tier in the West, led by the coach who helped turn Nikola Jokic from a pudgy second-round flyer into a generational superstar. That same coach, the winningest in franchise history, just got tossed aside like a bad timeout play. And now, the basketball world is scrambling to make sense of it. But forget the talking heads for a second. In this video, we're rolling through the raw, unfiltered reactions from the people who actually live this, NBA players. You'll hear it straight from them, from real-time shock to brutal honesty. By the end of this video, we'll know if Denver just pulled off a genius culture reset or blew a hole straight through their championship window. First up, Draymond Green. And if there's anyone who knows the ins and outs of a championship locker room, it's him. He's lived through every type of team dynamic, egos, burnout, coaching clashes, you name it. Green hit the ground running, diagnosing exactly what went wrong in Denver's locker room and why, to him, the decision wasn't all that surprising.
To hear people say it coming out like, oh yeah, they were getting tired of Mike Malone's hard style. Like, it makes complete sense to me.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense to me. Yeah. Like, people, but even aside from being a player, BD, people get tired of being pushed.
Draymond cracked open the door to what might have been brewing behind the scenes. A locker room that wasn't necessarily toxic, but tired. Worn down by the same demanding voice, year after year. But just when you thought he was siding with the players, Draymond flipped the script. He made one thing crystal clear. Being tired of hard coaching isn't a justification. It's the problem.
When I look at him being fired, though, you hear the reports of like, people tired of his voice, they're tired of his hard coaching. I'm sorry to say, but unfortunately, that's why people don't win. Because you get tired of hearing the voice that led you to being a winner.
Draymond isn't blaming Malone, he's calling out the team. If Denver needed a softer touch after winning a title, maybe the problem wasn't the coach yelling, maybe it was the champions who stopped listening. So early in this story, we're already staring down a hard truth. Comfort doesn't win rings, and if Denver let go of the very edge that got them to the top, they might have just traded urgency for silence, and silence doesn't hang banners. Next up is Gilbert Arenas, and if there's anyone who thrives in chaos, it's him. He built his legacy on buckets, boldness, and blowing up locker rooms just to watch the pieces fall. So when he chimed in on the Malone firing, you knew it wasn't going to be gentle. He started with the obvious, Jokic isn't the problem. Not now, not ever. But the rest of that locker room, that's another story.
Jokic is going to be Jokic. I don't really think he gives two who the coach is. But as a group, they probably wasn't listening to him anymore.
To Gilbert, the coach didn't lose the X's and O's battle. He lost the room. But then he took it even further. Stepped into GM mode, as if he were the one pulling the strings and the move in his eyes was already decided.
He knew he had no choice, and at some point it was going to happen. Now or later, I'm firing him, so it doesn't matter.
And it doesn't stop there. Because Gilbert wasn't just talking about Malone, he was talking about the real storm brewing behind the scenes. And to him, the spark that lit the fuse was one name, Russell Westbrook.
Everybody else was upset at the favoritism that he was playing towards Russ. Right, and that's that narrative. Russ ruins every team. I'm pretty sure he does, but not in the way you think. Him coming over there being an example will rub people the wrong way, and that's what ended up happening.
Forget the typical Russ slander, Gilbert flips it. He's not saying Westbrook ruined anything. He's saying Russ did what Russ does, show up, go hard, set a tone. And that made people uncomfortable. Not because he was a problem, but because he made the effort some guys didn't want to match. Gil's takeaway? If the end is coming, don't delay it. Rip the cord. Make the cut. Just don't act surprised when it leaves a scar. Because if Denver was already tuning Malone out, this wasn't sabotage, it was survival. Now here's a voice that doesn't pop up in every NBA headline. But when he speaks, you pay attention. Especially if you're into facts over feelings. Andrew Bogut isn't about hot takes or theatrics. He's about cutting through the noise with cold, brutal logic. And when he heard about Mike Malone getting canned, he didn't rant. He opened the history books.
Mike Malone now holds the record as the head coach fired in season with the most games played at 79 till they were fired. And he's tied with Hubie Brown, actually, but they both hold the record now all time. The most games into a season fired. And the most wins in a regular season when fired, 47, which is tied with Larry Brown. So the Brown brothers both hold those records, but Malone's now tied with them, useful or useless.
Andrew doesn't need to shout to make you feel the absurdity. He just lays out the numbers and lets the silence do the rest. 79 games, 47 wins, fired. That doesn't just sound bizarre, it is bizarre. You have to go back decades to find another coach pushed off the bench this deep into a season with this much success still on the scoreboard. And even then, it wasn't during a title defense. Andrew's final question, useful or useless, isn't just a throwaway line. He's not poking fun. He's drawing a line between stats that explain a decision and stats that expose it. Because when you're tied with two legendary coaches for the weirdest, most ill-timed firing in NBA history, that's not useful. That's a legacy moment for all the wrong reasons. Then came Jamal Murray. And while he handled the press with composure, what he said revealed just how seismic this move really was. Not just for him, but for the entire locker room. This wasn't a player dodging questions. It was a player trying to process the fallout in real time. Not by ranting, but by laying out exactly what Mike Malone meant to the Denver Nuggets, not as a strategist, but as the backbone of their identity.
Yeah, I mean, coach always has had my back. From a young kid coming in this league and up until now, he's always rooted for me. Like I said, always had my back and always kept me in good spirits. You know what I'm saying? So I want to give that kind of same energy to him, the same kind of respect. We don't get here, without him. I think not just with him. I think he's done a great job of also setting the example for the group behind us.
That's not a surface-level tribute. That's a franchise cornerstone recognizing the man who helped mold him, on and off the court. Malone wasn't just a coach to Murray. He was a constant, a guiding force who shaped his mentality from the day he entered the league. And more than that, Murray made it clear, the Nuggets don't become champions without Mike Malone. So when Jamal says he's done a great job of setting the example for the group behind us, that's the kind of leadership that doesn't show up in press releases or post-game interviews. That's the internal compass a young team follows in the quiet moments between games, the glue that keeps a locker room aligned. And now that glue's gone. This wasn't some veteran coach overstaying his welcome. This was a coach players still believed in. A coach who walked side by side with Murray through injury rehabs, playoff collapses, a championship climb, and everything in between. So no, Murray didn't call it a mistake, he didn't need to. His words made something else perfectly clear. Malone wasn't just part of the Nuggets story, he helped write it. And ripping him out this close to the playoffs? That's not just a shift in leadership, it's a full rewrite with the ink still wet. Now let's get to Paul Pierce. Say what you want about his takes. When the truth speaks, there's always conviction behind it. He's not one to sugarcoat. He's not one to hedge. He played the game at the highest level, won a title as a go-to guy, and knows exactly what it takes to survive a playoff war. So when he sees a team sabotaging their chances before the postseason even starts, he's not going to sit quietly.
This is my thing. You got the best player in the league, clearly. Like, he may win MVP, he may not. But to me, it just tells me Denver is not serious. Since they won a championship, they failed to re-sign the players that they had to help them win the championship. They regressed in the role players, and they said, hey, we're just going to plug and play and just hopefully our best player can cover our weaknesses. This is just telling me that the Denver Nuggets, by firing their coach a week before the playoffs, this does not give them their best chance to win the championship.
That's not just frustration. That's a veteran calling out a front office for getting complacent with greatness, for thinking they could coast on chemistry, vibes, and the brilliance of one transcendent player. To Pierce, It's not about whether Jokic can carry them. Of course he can. He's already done it. The real issue is, why is he being asked to? This is a team that was supposed to be hunting a dynasty, not scrambling for identity. Now they've fired the guy who built the entire structure from the sideline. In Pierce's eyes, Denver didn't just pull the plug on Malone, they pulled the plug on their own momentum. And here's the thing about championship windows. You don't always hear them closing. But when you fire your coach a week before the playoffs, you're slamming it shut yourself. We've heard from players, we've heard from former champions. But when it comes to what's really happening behind the scenes, what decisions are being made, and why, there's one man who never hesitates to pull the curtain back. Enter Charles Barkley. Chuck has built a second career on saying what everyone else is thinking, loudly, bluntly, and usually with a smirk. And when boardroom gossip starts swirling, you better believe Barkley's going to bring it to the table. So when the Malone firing went down, he had this to say.
Well, it was a shock, obviously. It has happened before, but that team was not any good. It happened to the great Hubie Brown, actually, but that team was not the Nuggets are in contention. From what I'm hearing, the owner did not want to pick a side because he said, if I keep Mike, people are going to think I chose him over Kevin, or if I keep Kevin, let him go. From what I heard, he just said, hey, you know what? Let's just get rid of both of them.
Chuck didn't start with X's and O's or even locker room tension. He went straight to the top. Ownership, front office politics, the stuff most analysts dance around, not Charles. According to Barkley, this wasn't just about the players. It wasn't even strictly about Malone. This was a silent war between the coach and the front office, and ownership hit the eject button on both. Think about what that really means. You're in contention. You've got the best player on the planet. You're months away from possibly getting another championship. And instead of doubling down on continuity, you hit reset on both of your top leaders. That's not clarity. That's chaos. Quiet chaos, maybe, but chaos all the same. And in trying not to offend either camp, Denver might have ended up alienating both. Because in a league where dynasties are built on alignment from the top down, the Nuggets chose neutrality. And at the highest level of competition, neutral gets you nowhere. Now we shift gears to Chandler Parsons. And while he's not a Hall of Famer or a former MVP, don't let that fool you. Parsons has quietly become one of the more thoughtful voices in NBA media. He's got that blend of first-hand experience and modern perspective, and more importantly, he's not afraid to say what front offices are really thinking.
And again, if this is a personality thing and he's lost the locker room, I agree with the point that why wait, why not do it now? But again, it's just a cold business, man. Like 4 of the last 6 championship coaches have been fired. This is it is crazy.
That right there, that's the climate. You can raise a banner, get a standing ovation at the ring ceremony, and be on the street before the next playoffs even start. Just ask Nick Nurse. Just ask Frank Vogel. Just ask Mike Budenholzer. Coaches who climbed the mountaintop and got tossed off at the moment they slipped. And now, add Mike Malone to the list, because we're in a post-confetti era now, where playoff banners don't guarantee job security, where a finals run buys you a press conference, not protection, and where coaches who were just sipping champagne last June are now watching from home. Malone didn't just join a growing list, he joined a trend. And Parsons, sitting back and calling it like it is, just reminded us, it's not personal, it's business. But that doesn't make it any less brutal. Now let's hear from Aaron Gordon. Of all the Nuggets players who've spoken, his reaction might be the most measured. No dramatics, no blame, just a careful attempt to explain the shift without lighting any fires. When asked about the firing, Gordon didn't dodge the question. But he also didn't say much outright. Instead, he pointed to something that's been hanging in the background for a while, the energy.
I'm not entirely sure. It's really up to ownership, and I guess for maybe the other guys, maybe it got stale. Is maybe a word I could use, but maybe there just needed to be some rejuvenation or just something injected into the culture, and I don't really got much more to say than that.
I mean.
He's not celebrating Malone's exit, but he's not exactly protesting it either. He acknowledges what others haven't said out loud, maybe things were just stuck. And then, after just a few practices under interim coach David Adelman, Gordon offered a new tone, one that felt noticeably lighter.
I think it's just kind of like the open line of communication. I think everybody has a little bit more of an input. I think we all know that we need to come together and hold each other accountable, and we're feeling that.
That right there is the trade-off, structure versus freedom. Malone brought discipline and expectation. Adelman, at least early on, is bringing openness and shared responsibility. Gordon doesn't make a dramatic statement either way. But what he does suggest is that change might have been needed, not because things were broken, but because they were stale. And in a league where momentum matters, maybe that's enough. Still, it leaves us with one question. Did the Nuggets lose their structure or find a spark? Now it's Shaq's turn. And if there's one guy who's been through it all, internal drama, media noise, championship pressure, it's Big Diesel. He's played through dynasties that looked like soap operas and still walked away with rings. So when people start panicking over a rough patch or a mid-season coaching storm, Shaq's the first to shrug and keep it moving. His take on the Malone firing? Straight to the point, with just the right amount of sting.
I would have liked it to be done a little more professional. The winningest coach in Denver won a championship. They still fall in the formula of possibly winning another championship. Despite what's going on, you want to have some type of home court advantage. Right now, they have that. And for all you idiots out there that think you have to have a smooth season to win a championship, that's false. Yeah. I can tell you that for a fact.
Shaq doesn't mince words. In his eyes, this isn't the end of Denver's title hopes. It's just noise. He's seen messier situations still end in confetti. Rings don't require peace and harmony. They require resilience, leadership, and one superstar who refuses to lose. And if that's the case, Denver still has Jokic. They still have the core. They still have a shot. What bothers Shaq isn't that Malone got fired, it's how it was handled. The lack of grace. You don't cut ties with the winningest coach in franchise history without so much as a warning. But don't get it twisted. Shaq's not worried about the noise. If anything, he thinks the pressure might sharpen this team. Because if there's one thing he knows better than anyone, it's that a rocky road doesn't mean a dead end. It just means the road gets louder. And if Denver's still locked in, they might roll right over the chaos and into another finals. Now we get to the one voice everyone was waiting for, Nikola Jokic, the face of the franchise. The reason the Nuggets are even in the title conversation. And with the playoffs, all eyes locked in to see what he had to say. Reporters leaned in, hoping for outrage, emotion, something to crack the surface. Instead, they got vintage Jokic, calm, blunt, and deeply rooted in that signature Balkan realism.
I mean, I'm not going to say what Josh told me. So, I mean, I knew a little bit before everybody, and he told me, like, we made a decision. So it was not discussion, it was decision, and you know, he told me why, and so I listened and I accepted. You know, it's I'm not going to tell what he told me. I'm going to keep that private.
No drama, no headline grab, just facts. Malone was out, and there was no vote, no back and forth, just a final word from the top. And Jokic, even the pro, didn't push back. But that wasn't the end. Pressed further, he didn't explode, but he did leave a message. One that felt more like a quiet warning than a soundbite.
I mean, if you know, when someone wants to wake somebody up or change energy, that's probably what they do. You know, in my country, if someone gets fired, you're worried it's probably you're the next. So I think it's definitely changed something, and they get the reaction of what they wanted.
That's as direct as you're going to get from Jokic. You want to shake a team awake? Fire the coach. You want to send a message? Make sure it's loud enough for everyone to hear. Because in his world, when someone gets cut loose, everyone else starts looking over their shoulder. And that's the vibe now in Denver. It's not anger, it's alertness. The margin for error is gone. The grace period is over. This isn't about loyalty anymore. It's about results. Jokic might have kept the details private, but the message loud and clear. Play better or pack a bag. Carmelo Anthony, a former franchise face with the Denver Nuggets long before Jokic took the crown. Melo knows what it means to grind through difficult seasons, chase playoff dreams, and carry the weight of a city on his back. So when he saw Mike Malone get fired with just a handful of games left before the playoffs, he couldn't believe it.
You don't do that. I don't give a who it is. You don't do that. Bro, we got 3 games left. 4 games left.
About to go in the playoffs.
About to go in the playoffs. Anything, you guys can still make a run.
Yeah.
Why are you pulling that trigger like that? That means to tell me, that goes to show me, y'all look at this season as a wash.
Just a former Nugget stunned that a franchise would throw in the towel this late in the year. Melo's message was simple. If you've got 47 wins, a reigning MVP, and a playoff spot locked in, you don't shake the foundation. He's not defending Malone's every decision. He's calling out the timing, the logic, the fact that Denver acted like the season was already over when it wasn't. To Melo, it wasn't bold, it was giving up. And for a guy who spent years fighting to put Denver on the map, that felt like the ultimate waste. Last but not least, we've got Antonio Daniels, a former champ who's been around long enough to know that winning a title isn't the end, it's just the start of the real work. And in his eyes, Denver didn't just mishandle the ending of Mike Malone's tenure. They fumbled everything before it.
Remember 2 years ago when they won the NBA championship? Remember that? And they allowed Bruce Brown to leave. And they allowed Jeff Green to go. And then a year later, they had an opportunity to keep Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and they allowed KCP to leave and go to Orlando. Even though if they would have kept Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, they would have been the front runner to repeat. They chose to do something different. That's not on Mike Malone.
That's the real sting. Malone wasn't coaching the same team he won the title with. One by one, the Nuggets let go of their connective tissue, guys like Bruce Brown, Jeff Green, and most recently KCP. Players who don't always get headlines, but who make all the difference in April and May. And Daniels isn't letting the front office off the hook. They had a path to keep the group together. They didn't take it. You can't gut the roster and then pin it all on the coach. You lose your glue guys, then blame the guy piecing them together? Antonio Daniels calls it like he sees it. This isn't just a firing, it's a cover-up. If Denver flames out early, Mike Malone's firing won't just look questionable, it'll become the blueprint for how to waste an MVP window. But if Jokic and the Nuggets go on a tear through the West, the front office gets to call it genius. Either way, this move is going down in NBA history. We're just waiting to find out if it lands under triumph or disaster. So where does the truth lie? On one hand, you've got a locker room jolted awake, ready to prove it's about the system, not the man. On the other, a franchise that just cut its safety net while walking a championship tightrope. If they win, Denver rewrites the playbook. If they lose, Malone's pink slip becomes basketball's next cautionary tale. Tip-off is hours away, pressure's peaking, and history's watching. Buckle up. The verdict starts now.